G major 7th. G minor 7th. F major 7th. F minor 7th. There's a real difference in function between arpeggios and true chords. Chords, as such, have a primarily harmonic role in music. Arpeggios are essentially melodic. Taking the notes of a chord and spreading them out in time reveals the melodic potential of the chord. We can play all the notes of the key in an arpeggio if we simply go from one note to another in thirds. Say C, E, G, B, D, F, A, and back to C. Or E, G, B, D, F, A, C, E. Or G, B, D, F, A, C, E, G, etc. Each of these 7 arpeggios will have a different shape on the fretboard, so it can be a daunting task to learn them all. What's the best way to approach large arpeggios beyond the triad? 6, 7 notes. As always, we want to find the simplest and most practical path to learn any fretboard patterns. To do that, we look for symmetry. The arpeggio that combines the clearest symmetry, along with the widest range of notes and the most coverage across the fretboard, is the minor 11th arpeggio, or I should say the minor 11th arpeggios, plural, because there are 2 identically structured minor 11ths in each key. One is rooted on the 2nd of the key, the other is rooted on the 6th of the key. Now, to be clear, if our only criterion was symmetry, the winner would be the Dorian minor 13th, rooted in the 2nd key degree. Its interval structure, brought full circle, is minor, major, minor, major, minor, major, minor. D, F, A, C, E, G, B, D. While the minor 13th, rooted on the 6th, the Aeolian arpeggio is minor, major, minor, major, minor, minor, major, A, C, E, G, B, D, F, A. But when we take each of these arpeggios and only go as far as the 11th, we end up with 2 identical interval sequences. The Aeolian minor 11th, rooted on the 6th key degree, and the Dorian minor 11th on the 2nd key degree, each share 3 fingering forms determined by the string where their lowest note is placed. The minor 11ths are positioned within basic scale blocks or zones. Their positions overlap. In the 3 and 6 zones, the Aeolian is rooted 1 string below the Dorian, a 4th apart. When you practice these arpeggios, be aware of their placement within each of the zone patterns. Studying the positional relationships between the minor 11th arpeggios and the 5 diatonic zones will help you connect scales and arpeggios and flow seamlessly from one to the other. We're looking at 3 basic arpeggio forms here: the lower form, the middle form, and the upper form, all with the same interval structure, whether they are the Aeolian minor 11th rooted in 6 or the Dorian minor 11th rooted in 2. Since each of these minor 11th forms cover only 4 strings, we can extend the forms beyond those 4 strings and cover 6 strings. In the case of the upper form, we can extend down from the 2 to the 7 to the 5 and to the 3, giving us a big arpeggio rooted in the 3. In the lower form, we can extend up from the high note of that form, the 5, to the 7, to the 2, and then to the 4 at the end. The middle form allows us to extend up and down, up from the 5 to the 7 and down from the 2 to the 7. When we extend each of these arpeggios in the Aeolian form, the extension will be 1 fret lower for each of them above and below than it was in the Dorian form that we just looked at. Extending down from the 6 to the 4 and up from the 2 to the 4. In the lower form, we extend from the 2 to the 4 to the 6 and to the 1. Finally, the Aeolian upper form extends down from the 6 to the 4 to the 2 and then to the 7 at the bottom. These minor 11th arpeggios are positioned in relationship to each other and also in relationship to the 3 diatonic axis positions, the Phrygian axis, the Aeolian axis, and the Dorian axis, rooted in the 3, the 6, and the 2, respectively. The lower Aeolian form of the minor 11th is rooted on the 6th string of the Aeolian axis. The middle form is rooted on the 5th string of the Phrygian axis, and the upper form, ending on 2, has its highest note on the 1st string of the Dorian axis. The lower Dorian form of the minor 11th is rooted on the 6th string of the Dorian axis. The middle form is rooted on the 5th string of the Aeolian axis, and the upper form is rooted on the 4th string of the Phrygian axis. As we go between adjacent keys in the circle of fifths, the Dorian form in one key becomes the Aeolian form in the next, just as 2 of the 3 axis positions are shared between those keys, while the remaining axis shifts to a completely new position. Arpeggios add a unique dimension to music. They're a kind of bridge between chords and scales. So having a clear understanding of their structure and how they relate to the key is important if we're going to use them effectively. It all begins with intervals, the sequence of major and minor thirds that connects every arpeggio in a diatonic key. The alternation between major thirds and minor thirds, with one exception between the 7, the 2, and the 4 of the key, where the diminished triad lives, the only instance of 2 consecutive minor thirds. Knowing the key degrees of each arpeggio we play is essential. Also essential is knowing where those key degrees are in the fretboard so we can place the arpeggios in the best harmonic context. To do that, we need consistent reference points, such as the 3 axis positions I've just delineated. In a future video, I'll focus on these axis frets and explore more of their functions. For now, you can see how they serve as anchor positions within each key to align the arpeggios. I'll be covering more practical applications of these arpeggios as well. For now, I hope to have opened the door to a different perspective that you'll find interesting and useful. Please let me know if you have any thoughts or questions in the comments below. As always, thank you for liking, thank you for sharing and subscribing, and I will see you soon.